boss battle cooperatively to help the spirit gain humanity aboard the ghost train in Vagrantsong.
And today we'll be teaching you how to play Vagrantsong, game designed by Kyle Rowan, Matt Carter and Justin Gibbs and published by Wyrd Miniatures.
And hello everyone, it's Stella
And Tarrant from the Dice Tower.
Let's get to the game.
In Vagrantsong, players take on the roles of different vagrants who are riding together on a ghostly train. Across a series of scenarios which will form a campaign, the players will come across a number of spirits or haints on their journeys. And by taking the actions available to them, will work together, attempting to restore the humanity of the haints, while at the same time building up their own skills and trying to retain their own humanity. A campaign is made up of scenarios from the scenario book, and whether you win or lose, you'll progress and tell your own tale. In this video, we'll first take you through how to play a scenario, using the first scenario, Shelter from the Storm, as an example, and then we'll take you through the camp phase, which you'll find between scenarios. To begin your campaign, each player chooses one of the 6 vagrants and takes its 3 matching action coins and a humanity marker set to maximum. You get 5 of each colour with the game, most of them are spares. Rulebook pages 6 and 7 show you the starting skills for your vagrant, so go to the deck and find the matching numbered cards from the cards which say wounded on one side. In the specific case of the Wayfarer, you'll also have starting junk. Find those from the cards that say broken on the other side. Your skills are placed in skills slots to the left and right of your player board. Each has a little diamond showing whether it can attach to either a left or a right hand side. Junk goes in a junk slot below your board. Each slot holds at most 1 card. Then find your matching standee and add it to a white coloured base. Lay out the train board. The train has 3 different cars or carriages, A, B and C. Around the train are 4 tracks: the round track, humanity track, brake track and cycle track. Directions in the game are often referenced to the sides of these 4 tracks. Now open the scenario book and set up the scenario as shown. The tracks will generally start with their matching tracker tokens and likely some numbered event tokens. These will trigger events through the scenario. Here on the round tracker, place rounds at 1 and event 3 at 3. Here on the brakes track, we'd place brakes at 3 and these 2 events like so. For the humanity track, you'll check the threshold based on your player count, placing the heart token at 0 and the H on the threshold. For each scenario, find the 3 ritual cards for this scenario and then place them in any order in the ritual slots. These 2 slots will be empty for the first scenario. The 5 types of tokens depicted on the cycle track are called the Rummage tokens, and you'll take all of the Rummage tokens and add them to the bindle. Set up the train map with all of the depicted tokens. Here there are some terrains, some event tokens, which you'll place as shown, and place each player's vagrant on a space marked with a V. Set up the Haint for this scenario. You'll find the mini that matches the depicted Haint and place it into a green base. This starts on the depicted space. Make available any colours of Haint effect tokens which are used in this scenario. In this case, you'd need black and white. These are generic tokens. They mean different things depending on the scenario. This page represents the Haint behaviour, that is how the Haint takes its actions, and there are 2 moods, represented by the smile and the frown. Place this mood token on the side depicted at the top of the page, unless otherwise stated, and this will allow you to track which of the Haint's 2 moods it's in at any given time. Finally, read the rest of the rules for this scenario, any extra special steps of setup, special rules, and so on. This will also include your victory or lose conditions. You're now ready to play. Vagrantsong is played in scenarios, and each scenario depicts an encounter between your vagrants and a ghostly haint on the train. Your encounters will represent a battle and balance of humanity. The vagrants begin with humanity, and the haints do not. Through the process of the encounter, the vagrants will try to restore the humanity of the haint, while the haints can sap humanity from the vagrants. The victory condition for the first scenario of Vagrantsong, as well as many but not all of the scenarios which follow it, is to save the haint. To do this, restore its humanity until it has at least as much humanity as the threshold value. This causes a break. You'll reduce the break marker and return the humanity marker to 0. To save the haint, you'll need to repeat this process as many times as required to make the breaks drop off the track. Within each scenario, there are 3 rituals. Each of these describes an in-game occurrence, and if at any point you meet that occurrence, then you get to flip the ritual card over and resolve its positive effect. Unless otherwise stated, you don't have to complete the rituals to win the scenario, but it's often very helpful to do so. Some other scenarios have their own very specific victory conditions. As vagrants lose their humanity through the encounters, they will become wounded, each time choosing a skill or junk card to flip over. And a fully wounded vagrant becomes westbound. The team loses the scenario if all players are ever simultaneously westbound, or if they meet a specific defeat condition in the scenario. However, whether they win or lose, players will still get to move on to the next scenario. Vagrantsong is played in rounds, and each round is played in turns. Each vagrant will take 1 turn per round, and the haint will take as many turns per round as there are vagrants, taking a turn after each individual vagrant turn. The team may choose in which order the vagrants act, and this order may change from round to round. Once the round is over, advance the round marker to the next step. After each 6th round, simply go back to the first. There is no round limit unless specifically stated. A vagrant's turn is played in 2 main steps, declaring actions and then resolving those actions in any order. To begin your turn, gather up all of your action coins, including any which were placed on the main board in the previous turn. Now use those coins to declare your actions. You have 5 basic actions printed on your vagrant card. And your skill cards also represent actions which may be taken. Junk cards, as well as this effect on your card, are generally passive powers and in most cases won't require action coins to activate. Distribute your coins however you wish among the actions you wish to take. Placing multiple coins on the same action will give you a more powerful version of that action. The only restriction when placing coins is that you cannot place action coins on the same skill card on consecutive turns. The shoe represents movement, and each coin you place on this action allows you to move up to your movement range around the board. For this vagrant with 2 coins, I'd be allowed to move up to 4 steps this turn. Movement is counted in orthogonal steps around the train. You can move into or through other characters, both vagrants and haints, but cannot finish your move on one. You cannot move into or through terrain. 4 movement here would let me go 1, 2, 3, 4. You can interrupt your movement by taking other actions. With 4 movement here, for example, I could move 1, interact with this haint, and then move a further 3 steps away. As you move around the board, you may encounter numbered event tokens. Entering an event space does not trigger it. You must instead activate by taking the investigate action within the event space. Flip to this scenario's events page and read the initial flavor text of this numbered event up to the point where it tells you to investigate. You'll now roll dice or bones to resolve the investigation. And this is the first of many of the game's actions which require a die roll to resolve. For any roll to resolve action, you'll go through this process. Firstly, determine the number of bones that you'll roll. For this action, it's 1 bone per coin placed on the action. Roll the bones. Each rolled result which meets or exceeds the number on your action, so here it's meeting or exceeding 4, counts as 1 success. Each 6 counts as a booming boxcar. It is a success and you re-roll it, resolving its new result as well. In this case, I have rolled a total of 3 successes. Booming boxcars can chain together, meaning there's theoretically no limit to the number of successes any single roll can have. Now return to the event text and resolve whichever paragraph corresponds to the number of successes you rolled. Not all events resolve exactly like this. Here, for example, you would need to take the investigation action, but you would automatically succeed the investigation without rolling bones. There are events on some of these tracks, and these don't require an action to resolve. This would simply be resolved immediately as soon as you pass to the 3rd round. There are also some events which are triggered by the actions of the Haint or the text of the scenario. The fist represents the bust action, and this is one way which you can try to increase the Haint's humanity. You must be adjacent to the target Haint. Roll 1 bone for each coin that you commit to the action. And, as always for these rolls, resolve booming boxcars for any 6s. Then, for each success against your bust threshold, increase the Haint's humanity by 1 step. When the Haint reaches the threshold of humanity, it breaks. Any excess humanity above this on this action is lost. Reset the Haint's humanity to 0. Reduce the break counter, resolving any event there if applicable. Resolve any break effect specific to this scenario. And then, in all scenarios, the Haint effectively skips its next turn, with all players gaining 1 humanity instead of the Haint resolving an action. The patch action helps you to deal with your own loss of humanity. Roll 1 bone for each coin in the action, and for each success, gain 1 humanity. Any excess successes once you've reached your maximum humanity are wasted. The bag icon represents the Rummage action. For each coin that you place on this action, draw 1 Rummage token from the bindle. Then, regardless of the number of coins placed on the action, choose exactly 1 of these to keep, returning the others to the bindle. Store your Rummage tokens near your Vagrant board. You may hold up to as many Rummage tokens as the value on your Rummage action. If you would ever gain above that limit, return any that you don't want to the bindle. You can spend Rummage tokens from your supply to resolve various effects. You can spend them on any turn, including a Haint's turn, as long as the Haint has taken its action. But each Vagrant may spend at most 1 Rummage token per round. When you spend a token, you discard it, not back to the bindle, but onto the cycle track. And at the end of any Vagrant or Haint turn, when any single stack of these tokens meets the size shown next to it, you'll return all of these discarded tokens to the bindle and resolve the Haint's current cycle effect. Each Rummage token has a basic effect in play in all scenarios. Discard Iron Nails to target the Haint within range 2 to gain 2 humanity. With the candle, you can place it into an adjacent open space, that is, a space containing no pieces, to try to distract the Haint when it's taking its actions on its turn. More on that later. You can use Salt to ignore the effect of a Haint's action which targets the Vagrant using the Salt. You can use a Rabbit Foot as a once-off 4th coin when choosing your actions. And you can spend an apple to heal a wound. As your single Rummage token action for the round, you can give your Rummage token to an adjacent teammate. And finally, your scenario's description will most likely include some additional ways that you can use specific Rummage tokens. You must simply remember that each Vagrant is limited to using or trading one Rummage token per round. Finally, be aware that numbered event tokens may also end up in the bindle. If this happens, resolve that numbered event and then replace the token with a new one. Beyond the 5 general actions, you will often want to use your character's skills. Remember that you cannot put action coins on the same skill in consecutive rounds. Skills will come with these 4 pieces of information: target, range, bones, and success. Target will represent the type of target for this skill: H for Haint, V for Vagrant, any for either, or a dash representing no specific target. Range represents the allowable orthogonally counted range between the Vagrant taking the skill and the target. Here, a Haint at range 1 necessarily means an orthogonally adjacent Haint. A Vagrant at range 0 or 1 could mean yourself, you're at range 0, or a different adjacent Vagrant. Here it's a Haint at range 1 or 2. Vagrants may count range into but not through terrain, so this would not be in range, this would be, and line of sight is not required, so these 2 Vagrants are within range for this 4 range skill. The bones represents the number of bones rolled when resolving this skill, so in this instance it would be 2, and in this instance 1 per coin. And the bottom line represents the success threshold. Here it's 3, and here it's 6 minus 1 per coin, so in this case 5. After each individual Vagrant's turn, the Haint will take a turn, and a Haint's turn is resolved in the following steps. First, determine action, then determine the target priority, then move based upon the target priority, then resolve the action, and then discard the action's Rummage token. Step 1 is determine the action. The Vagrant who just finished taking a turn draws 1 Rummage token from the bag. If it's an event, resolve it and then draw another token until you have a Rummage token. The combination of that Rummage token and the Haint's current mood determines which action is taken. Secondly, determine the target priority, and you'll do this according to this seriatim of potential priorities. Firstly, if anyone holds the special target priority token, that player is the target. This would only be given out from an effect specific to this scenario. Next, check for an action-specific target. For example, for this specific action, the target would be the furthest Vagrant. Next, if the action involves movement, check for a candle in the same train carriage. Remember, these can be placed to distract the attention of the Haint. Fourth, look for the Vagrant in the same train carriage who has lost the most humanity. Fifth, look for the closest Vagrant in any carriage. Sixth, look for a westbound Vagrant. And finally, look for the Vagrant who had the most recent turn. You'll step through this seriatim one by one, breaking ties with the next one in the order until you have a single target. The next step is to move the Haint. Check the action that's been picked and check its action range indicated by the arrows. If there is no range, then treat the range as 1 for this step. On the board, find the chosen target and identify all spaces which are within the action's range of that target. So if this were a range 1 action, these 5 spaces would be identified. At its most basic, the Haint will now move towards any one of those spaces. Suppose this Haint had a movement distance of 2, it would move 1, 2 to enter that range. Unlike Vagrants, Haints may freely move into or through terrain. Haint may also move into or through vagrants, and any vagrant who is moved through is haunted. Resolve the haunted effect for the Haint's current mood, and note that this cannot be ignored with salt. When a Haint moves, it will always try to haunt as many vagrants as possible while still finishing within range of the target. Suppose this were move 4, range 1. The Haint here could move 1, 2, 3, 4, finishing within range and haunting both vagrants. The Haint will also do this even if already within range. Again, in this case, if it were range 1, move 4, the Haint would move 1, 2, 3, 4, still finishing within range and haunting both vagrants. If a Haint ends its move on a vagrant, then the vagrant must move to a chosen adjacent open space. If the Haint cannot get within range of the target, it will still move and try to haunt vagrants. Suppose this were range 1, move 2, the Haint would move 1, 2, haunting this vagrant. There may be several movement sequences which achieve the same outcome. In this case, or indeed the case of any other tie you can't resolve by the basic rules, use the honour system of the Hobo Code to choose whichever outcome you deem to be the worst. Then resolve the action as written. The action may have a single target. And if the Haint is within range of its original priority target, that will be the target of the action. If, however, after movement the Haint is not within range of its original target, then it will see if there are any new valid targets, and it will use the same seriatim that we used before among anyone within range to determine who will be the target. In other words, here if it were a move to range 1 scenario and this were the first target, the Haint would move here, haunt this vagrant, then switch to targeting this vagrant. If there's still no valid target, the effect is simply lost. There are also cases where the initial priority target no longer applies. Here you would move based on the priority target, but the action itself targets all vagrants in range. Note as well, any candle is discarded as soon as a Haint moves onto it, meaning it's no longer a valid target for later phases of the turn. To finish the Haint turn, discard the Rummage token that was drawn to the cycle track. Many Haint effects show a coloured circle, and these represent the Haint effect tokens that we saw during setup. When you gain one of these, take the token. You can't have more than one of the same type per vagrant, and resolve its effect based on the scenario. If at any point your humanity drops down to or below 0, you are wounded. You must choose one of your skill cards or junk cards to flip over to the opposite side, and then place your humanity back up to its maximum. The wounded skill or broken junk is no longer available for use. You can heal a wound by using an Apple Rummage token, but you cannot repair junk in that way. If you're ever forced to flip your last skill and junk card over, then you become westbound. And conversely, if the game ever tells you to become westbound, you must flip over all of your skills and junk. Set your humanity to 1, it cannot go any lower than that while you're westbound, and find the westbound skill card which corresponds to your character and place it on top of one of your wounded skills. You'll continue playing almost as normal. You still have general actions and you have your new westbound skill which you can use. However, if you're still westbound at the end of the scenario, then you will permanently lose the skill upon which you placed the westbound skill for the rest of the campaign. So part of what you'll try to do is restore your humanity and flip back to the non-westbound side. You can gain humanity as normal while westbound. And if you have humanity to lose and need to lose some, you can instead have the closest non-westbound vagrant lose that humanity for you. When you reach maximum humanity, flip your card back over, remove the westbound skill, and automatically heal one of your wounds. The scenario comes to an end when you reach either the victory or a defeat condition. And in every scenario, all vagrants being westbound is a defeat condition. You'll now proceed directly to the camp phase. Don't pack anything up yet. The wounds and damage that you've suffered during this scenario will stay with you until you heal it. You'll be instructed to read a numbered moment, depending on whether you had victory or defeat. These moments are different numbered paragraphs which unfold the story, starting on page 30 in the rulebook. And note that if your defeat came because everyone was westbound, you'll also read moment 13. Moments may allow you to mark off different mileposts in the back of the book. And you can also download and print off separate copies of this. And this will give you certain keywords which will make the story unfold in different ways depending on how you've gone in previous scenarios. Now follow the camp phase steps. First, you'll restore humanity, returning to your full humanity value, and if you are westbound, permanently discarding the skill which you covered with your westbound skill. Restoring your humanity lets you flip over one skill and your card the way it would during the game. Then you can clean up your scenario, and now you'll build up. You'll gain coins which you can spend on various upgrades. Each player automatically gets their 3 action coins and any other coins earned in the scenario. Here, for example, these cards grant 1 extra coin for the next camp phase. Players now pool their money to spend on any of these effects they wish. There'll be the choice to purchase 1 or 2 specific numbered skills, and these cost 2 coins each. You don't get to look at the skill before purchasing. You simply know whether it's a left or right skill with a little bit of flavour about how it might work. For 1 coin, you can heal a player's wound or fix a player's broken junk. For 1 coin, you can rummage. Rummage tokens from the previous scenario are discarded, but with this, you can take a rummage action, gain a rummage token, and then give it to any player to take into the next scenario. You could acquire junk. At the start of the campaign, you'll shuffle up the Tier 1 junk deck, adding other tiers later only when told, and at the start of each camp phase, flip 1 junk card face up. For 1 coin, the team can draw a different junk card, shuffling the first one back into the deck. And for 3 coins, the team may buy this junk card, up to once per camp phase. For 1 coin per player, you can perform a seance, taking the seance card and placing it beside the board for the next scenario only. Each scenario after the first has a seance effect which makes the scenario easier to win. Finally, you can bank any coins you don't want to spend, marking them in the back of the campaign book and potentially unlocking moments later in the campaign. If you're done with your gaming session, this is the point at which you can save the game, putting everything away in the box and keeping separate all of the skills and junk you've unlocked. You don't need to separate them by player, they're all considered communal property. Then, to begin setup for the next scenario, you can manage vagrants. Skills and junk may be freely traded among the players, as long as each skill or junk you go into the scenario with has a valid diamond-connected space on your player board, and provided no vagrant takes into battle another vagrant's exclusive skill. That's anything that shows another vagrant's icon on the top. There are also rules allowing you to swap out different vagrants to try out some of the other passive abilities and combinations. Finally, you'll witness the in-between. Draw the next card from the in-between deck, read out the story, and then all players use their action coins secretly and simultaneously to choose whether they want A, B, or C as the effect. Then flip the card and each player individually resolves the A, B, or C effect they chose. This often involves gaining a grey Haint effect token, whose effect carries into this forthcoming scenario. Now proceed to set up for your next scenario. And that's how to play Vagrantsong.
Thank you so much for watching. Everything you do will help us. Every single view, every time you like the video. Let us know if you have any questions and comments, and see you next time. Bye!